from Tokyo this morning. I must ask you first of all, we had Mark Farber on the line about half an hour ago. He talked about this being a panic and he expects it to get a lot worse. What's your take on this sell-off so far?
Yeah, there's definitely panic selling going across the board. And of course, it's brought on by the uncertainty. Whenever you have a situation where people are uncertain about currency, about interest rates, about the state of the world, then they try to retreat from whatever they're doing and get into cash and do what they feel is safety. Of course, that's not safe, but that's what the reaction is. So I would agree with Mark that it is panic selling. No one knows whether it's going to get better or worse. We're now in a vacation season, so unfortunately the Europeans are probably not going to be moving in any direction, which is probably not a good idea, but that's the reality.
I would say also many have been called back from their holidays as well. But again, I mean, looking overall, when you gather your team this morning, do you buy into the safe havens, the Swiss franc, the gold, the obvious ones, or do you take some risk?
Well, I mean, we're looking at equities all the time, and equities are looking better and better with all this turmoil because with real interest rates in negative territory around the world, in most cases, we're much better off with equities. And, of course, the emerging markets, as you know, are in much better shape than in the developed countries. If you look at debt to GDP levels, if you look at foreign exchange reserves, emerging markets are in a very, very sweet spot.
It's a far cry from the crisis back in '97, isn't it? We've just had as well Indonesian growth, 6.5%. Now, of course, there's a European crisis, and the US may be losing their AAA rating. I mean, what's your take on the impact from the US if they also do more quantitative easing, and also the Eurozone, Italy being obviously the concern right now, the impact on Asia and on your thinking as a very top investment manager?
Well, if you look at the situation globally, people are continuing to spend. A few weeks ago, I was in Europe. You can see people are traveling, they're spending. Difficult to get hotel rooms. Even here in Japan, difficult to get hotel rooms. Hotel rates are way up. You know, life goes on. And what I think is happening is that people are realizing that money does not hold its value. So therefore, it's a good idea to enjoy life while you can and buy assets. And, of course, you're going to get temporary downturns, but at the end of the day, life goes on and you have consumption continuing. So even with a slowdown in the U.S., and I think now they're talking about very, very low grade, if not a negative situation in the U.S. in terms of growth, people will continue to consume, and China will continue to export, Vietnam will continue to export. The change has been the fact that the direction of exports are moving more and more towards China, towards India, and these other countries. And that means the world is becoming a lot more diversified.
I mean, with that thought again, just if I go back to the US, I mean, do you envision a double-dip recession in the States? And also, do you see quantitative easing 3, and will that be significantly inflationary for Asia and also impact, therefore, investing?
I don't see a double-dip situation in the U.S. simply because of the amount of liquidity that's in the system that could go in with further easing by the central bank. That's number one. The number two issue, of course, is government policy, and I think it's probably getting to the administration, to the Obama administration, that what they've been doing has been killing the effort to get employment, because they're creating so much bureaucracy for the small companies, small and medium-sized companies, and I think that's probably beginning to dawn on them, so that you may see some dramatic changes in government policy regarding business and so forth, and that would be positive, of course.
I want to go back to your exporting. You mentioned this in Vietnam, for example, exports now going to China. So when you look at Asia right now, I mean, which area do you think holds the best investment? Where are you investing right now as the market worries, panics, etc.? Where is Mark Mobius saying, put your money?
Well, Thailand is still right at the top of our list. Vietnam is there, but unfortunately Vietnam has very low liquidity, but Vietnam is the other one. Indonesia, of course, is another area. So I would say those are the ones that are particular interest now. But, we do find opportunities in Malaysia, not so much in North Asia, up here in Korea, Japan, Taiwan, not that interesting, but it's in the ASEAN nations that we're seeing a lot of interesting things happening and some cheap stocks.